Hey there, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. I just woke up Huck, and she just woke up from a nap, and she says, "Do I gotta work today, Dad?" "Yeah, pretty girl. Yeah, a pretty girl. Shake? We shake? Oh, Dad's a good girl. Dad's a good girl. Yeah. Wanna lay down? Wanna lay down? No? Okay." Okay, so Huck is going to rest her weary bones while I film this segment. And this one is going to be about the letters. And I promised this to you yesterday, second part of a test process. And you go, "Dave, what are you testing about?" Well, that's a very good question. As I mentioned in a video the other day, went through some analytics on the videos I produced the last year, and we found out that I'm only getting credit for about 30 minutes of video for every hour I produce. And most of the missing people videos are an hour long. So what's going on with the other 30 minutes? Well, some people say, "Oh, you know what, the letter prop part of it is boring, I don't want to watch." I get it. I only am interested in the missing persons site. Okay, that's fine too. But we're going to do a little test here. And we're going to film a letter segment. And then I'm going to see how much credit YouTube gives me for this. And if they don't give me 5 minutes worth of credit for 30 minutes worth of time, then the letter segments will disappear. Because it really says how much time people are watching. And that's important to me. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. So the first letter, and I got hundreds of letters and emails from you about this. David Grush, UFO Whistleblower, 5 things you need to know. First of all, if you don't understand what I'm talking about UFOs, then you really aren't in tune with what I am, who I am. We did this documentary called Missing 411, the UFO Connection. Very important part of my life at this point. So when I talk about UFOs, you may go, "Oh, well, this is important." So David Charles Grush, 36 years old, is a U.S. Air Force veteran, intelligence official, and UFO whistleblower who is accusing the government of possessing intact and partial intact craft of non-human origin, according to a debrief. He first broke the story about Grush's accusation on June 5th, 2023. Grush later spoke to the News Nation and repeated the accusations. It reported that Grush has given Congress and the intelligence community Inspector General, that's the oversight body, extensive classified information about deeply covert programs involving alleged alien aircraft. Grush has accused the government of illegally withholding information from Congress. This is a biggie, folks. He filed a complaint alleging that he suffered illegal retaliation for his confidential disclosures. It also reported that it has obtained similar corroborating information from other intelligence officials, both active and retired. Grush said that recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles have been made for decades to the present day by government, its allies, and defense contractors. He told the outlet that objects are of exotic origin, non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial or unknown origin, based on the vehicle morphologies and material science testing, in possession of unique atomic arrangements. He said, "We are not talking about prosaic origins and identities. The materials include intact and partially intact vehicles." It also reported that Grush is a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, is a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office. He served as a Reconnaissance Office representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 to 21. From late 21 to July 22, he was the NGA's GO lead for the UAP analysis and its representative to the task force. Grush is a former combat officer who served in Afghanistan for the U.S. Air Force. Retired Army Colonel Carl Nell, who worked with Grush on the UAP task force, stated that Grush is beyond reproach in his honesty. That's a formidable statement, folks. They are retrieving non-human origin intact vehicles called spacecraft, if you will, non-human exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed, Grush told News Nation. Well, naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as it sounds, it's true. I thought it was totally nuts, and I first thought it was being deceived. It was a ruse, he told the outlet. People started to confide me, approach me. I have plenty of senior former intelligence officers that have come to me, many of which I knew almost my entire career, that confided in me that they were part of a program. Grush, who said he has not seen photos of the aircraft but spoke to people, etc., were definitely not alone. According to CNN, David Fravor, a retired Navy pilot, saw one of the objects in 2004 and described it as a white object, oblong, pointing north, moving erratically. He stated, as I got close to it, it rapidly accelerated to the south and disappeared in less than 2 seconds. Fravor told CNN that the object had the ability to hover over water and then start a vertical climb from basically zero up towards 1,200 or up towards 12,000 feet and then accelerate in less than 2 seconds and disappear. David Fravor, he was head of the Nimitz Fighter Battalion. I actually sat and interviewed him for an hour in Oregon at a conference one day. He interviewed me about SWAT weapons, and I interviewed him about his encounter. He was a absolutely phenomenal individual and probably one of the most interesting people I've ever interviewed in my life. I was alone in the room. I didn't have any camera equipment. David Fravor was absolutely credible. And he said that what he saw wasn't ours. And the last words before we got pulled out, I go, "Oh, so what do you think?" He goes, "I want to fly it." So, from a fighter pilot who I spoke to, who encountered a UFO off the coast of California. It was real. And now we have somebody from absolute integrity coming forward and saying that, yeah, we have these otherworldly vehicles. Now, Grush also said they might be extraterrestrial or something else, but they're not human. And I asked the question on my Twitter account, could that mean what he's referring to is that they're demonic? Now, Dave, why would you say that? Well, because over at Skinwalker Ranch, when the Defense Intelligence Agency was there studying it, that was a conclusion they came to, and they pulled out of the research because of that. Demonic. Now, why am I talking about this in relation to Missing 411, the UFO Connection? Well, I want you to go to the MUFON website, MUFON, and look at their national symposium this year. It's in September. It's in Kentucky, right next to Cincinnati. It's a big deal, folks. Biggest UFO convention in the world. Their keynote speaker this year is someone incredible. Very honest, a vast array of work, somebody you're going to find interesting. And who is that? It's me! Yeah, I am the keynote speaker at that conference. So, hope you get there. Just go to MUFON, MUFON, and you can see all the links that go up to their symposium website. I'm speaking at the symposium dinner. That's the premier spot to speak at. So hopefully you'll get there, see me, have a good dinner, and we can talk. I'll be there for the 4 days. I'll have a table there. We can talk. Now, and you may say, well, why would they pick Dave as the keynote speaker? Because I brought up things in this movie that they had never put together before. And some of the top people at MUFON thought it was incredible what I did. Now, I've stated this before. You go to a MUFON conference and everybody in the front row when you're speaking is a PhD. Sometimes they're all physicists. Sometimes it's incredible who goes to these conferences. The educational level of the people is super high. I'm very honored that I got chosen to speak there. Thank you, MUFON. Another recent event that I got tons of emails and posts about is April 30th, 11:50 p.m. Las Vegas, New Mexico. A resident in Las Vegas calls Las Vegas PD reporting something landed in their backyard. Several agencies believe something crashed in Las Vegas. Las Vegas PD body cam catches something unusual in the sky hovering near this house. This is in northwest Las Vegas. The people in the house said that the entities they saw in their backyard were 8 to 10 feet tall and had large eyes. That's incredible. That is incredible. Now here's my question to you. There's been a lot of rumors going around that there's going to be a false flag event. UFOs are going to land. They're going to claim it, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people say, well, it's going to be something that's going to change the world. Now, when I hear about UFOs landing in a Las Vegas backyard, and the people describe what they saw, it's pretty hard to believe. No, it's not that I don't believe the people or the policeman who saw something in the sky and it wasn't a helicopter hovering. I mean, if we have the technology that Grush described, could this be something that the government is putting on just to throw us off what's happening in our world right now? I don't know. It's worth thinking about. Something happened in Las Vegas, though. Okay, a letter from one of our fans, villagers. Just a quick email to convey something that I have been thinking of in regards to the missing being found at great distance from where they were last seen. What if the person hasn't changed location and it is actually the Earth which has changed orbital location whilst they have been somehow somewhere suspended? The best way I can explain my thoughts is to think of Earth as a slow-moving conveyor belt used to move parcels. If I was to lift one of these parcels up to the belt and hold it suspended above the belt for a certain length of time before placing it back on the belt, it would now be in a different location on the belt, although it has not physically moved. This would explain the extreme distances traveled when a person is either physically unable to move such distances or appears to be free of any physical injuries that would be expected to occur in a long journey. It would even increase the likelihood of someone returning to water bodies. Perhaps it is possible to calculate the distance and time missing with the Earth's orbit, or to calculate Earth's path and see if it aligns with the point of vanishing and the point of found. I would attempt that myself, but I'm just a mechanic and I'm not a scientist. But your mind thinks very well. Interesting thought. I'm not even sure how you would do that, but interesting thought. Next letter. Hey Dave, I just wanted to share this with you in case you hadn't seen this, as I found it interesting. There's actually an article showing 2 images of Coldwater Fire Department members from the perspective of the Overdrive parking lot, taken the very next day after he was reported missing. The photos show, as you stated on YouTube after contacting the reporter, that the field Hagman was found in was indeed flattened. There was barely any snow on the ground. A man that I spoke about extensively, Mr. Hagman, disappeared. His car was parked near some fields. They searched all the fields multiple days. Weeks later, he's found right in the middle of the field they'd been searching. You can find that on this video or on our channel right now. I stated at the time, I think it's one of the most important cases we've ever done because this is an obvious case. The individual could not have been there when they were searching. They would have found him. And what this article goes on to say is in fact, this last sentence says, there's absolutely no way Hagman's body was there at the time of the search and rescue. It's just a flat field. There's nothing growing in it. You could see 3 miles. There's nothing on the field. And then suddenly it's there. Thank you for the letter. And thanks for actually doing the follow-up and showing that I was right. Hey Dave, greetings from a devoted villager. Hope all is well in Montana. So the reason we are not outside in Montana, this is pretty funny. I was in Columbia Falls today. I'm driving through Columbia Falls and the wind is blowing 40, 50 miles an hour. We're supposed to have flash floods, major thunderstorms in the area today. Wind is really humming. I'm about half a mile from Mudman Burgers, a famous burger place in Columbia Falls. And I see this sign go right in the middle of the road. A giant sign, the wind blew it over. So, we can't film outside today. Thus, we're back in the library. I want you to know that I pray for you and your family regularly, especially related to the loss of Ben. We lost our daughter, Jessica, 5 years ago, this coming Father's Day. Oh, that's a bad one. It's a bad day to lose anybody. I've developed the practice of praying for another grieving family each time she comes to mind, which is daily sometimes, multiple times a day. Praying for others helps a little with the sorrow. It does. I just received my Bigfoot 101 patch, having completed the 20-session course and passing the final exam. Congratulations! Things have tapered off. A lot of people aren't taking the class now. A lot of people don't even know that there's a class online. There's 20 videos right here on this channel. Bigfoot class, Bigfoot 101, class 1 through 20. And then at the end, you can take a test, mail the test in, and I send you a patch. And I'm now completing lesson 3 of the UFO UAP classes. Looking forward to learning as much as I can. And we will pick back up on those UFO classes once Skinwalker Ranch finishes. Otherwise, I just feel it's like a duplication. They're talking a lot about UFOs, so we'll learn together from there. Thank you for all the research you do and for putting together what I consider a college-level course, including assignments, reading materials, suggestions for additional study, and the final exam. Very much appreciated. I wrote to you several months ago about an incident in which I witnessed drivers and other vehicles shrinking and disappearing. That would be odd. Thank you for reading the email on your YouTube channel. This email is in regards to your video dated May 7th, 2023, and a letter you read in that segment. The village letter was in regards to why the government is not open, candid, or willing to provide information about missing people and their investigators in National Park. You had mentioned that it doesn't make sense. I have a possible theory as to why they withhold info. Yeah, it could be a national security situation, but doubtful. Yes, it could be a situation where they fear panic among the public, but doubtful as well. My belief is that it could be a power issue. Considering most politicians and bureaucrats are A-type narcissists who crave power, it may be a situation of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. They have a secret, and that gives them the sense of power and control. They determine that what we know, how much we know, and when we know it, or more to the point, control over what we don't know. Thus, they are superior to us and share what they will allow us to know. They can also manipulate the information we obtain. An example of this manipulation is Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas telling several congressional committees the border is secure and we have everything under control. Trust the government. While every other source of the border states the border is not secure and little is under control. Just a thought. But the more I watch, the less I believe this government is still of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you for all you do for sharing villagers' letters and sharing your battle with grief and family struggles and mental health. Keep up the great work. Please stay the fight and guide us into a deeper critical thinking. Blessings to you, Professor Paulides, and to Angie, and to executive producer Huck. Huck is right here at the base of the camera, eyes closed, just about snoring. That's what she thinks of my presentation. Quite an executive producer, if I may say so myself. Next letter. Mental illness and the loss of a loved one. I hope this message reaches you. I'd first like to thank you for spreading awareness towards mental health and suicide prevention. About 16 years ago, my best friend had finally taken his life after multiple attempts of trying to overdose, but unfortunately succeeded with a bullet to the head. I never will forget that day. It happened the next morning after spending the night at his house and had woken up to his family crying before I had woken up. He was much like your son, could have accomplished anything in the world that he wanted to, but unfortunately he ended up getting addicted to opioids after an accident at work, and all of his ambitions in life became impossible for him, and his depression started to kick in as options became narrower in what he could do. His dreams torn apart, not knowing of an alternative path to follow. I tried my best to make him feel like he was still worth living, and in my young mind, that meant taking him to strip clubs, casinos, and paying for it all. I didn't know what else I could do because we lived in partying lifestyle, adventurous type. His family did their best as well, but, well, nothing we knew could have saved him. We all felt much guilt because of this. His father was hit very hard by this and had hung himself while he was in jail. And then his mother 5 to 6 years later by another means. This had left his sister motherless and fatherless in the end. Still young, but young adults nonetheless. How could parents do that to the last living child? They got to carry that grief. It's not fair. That's not fair. You don't do that to kids. I don't care how much your depression goes. You do not leave that grief on your kid's shoulders. No mom, no dad, no brother. Come on. Shadow people. My first experience with a shadow being was when I was younger, and from other stories that I've heard, it could have been the Hagman that I encountered while sleeping in my room when I was in my 3rd and 4th grade. It had occurred when I was woken up in the middle of the night when I saw this entity which appeared to be a shadow, not as a mass of darkness, but as a shadow that was accompanied by a shadow of an alien gray. Now, I've never seen a UFO ever, but based on the unsolved mystery shows that I had watched often with my 2 brothers and my mom, it had appeared to look like an alien gray, whether it was or wasn't. Now, fast forward to when I was in middle school, moved in with my father, and around the first time I met my best friend, who was living below me after or before him, I had met him. Oh, wow, it was written poorly. Now, one of the nights when I lived above him, myself and my stepbrothers shared a room together, and I'll do my best to describe the layout of the room. My bed was on the north side of the room, and my stepbrother's was on the south side of the room against the wall. One night, I had woken up unable to move, and this is where my shadow person encounter gets really weird. I was paralyzed, but I was only able to see this entity through the reflection on the TV. However, it was not a shadow person, but a being of light. Now, I was able to make out the details, but it wasn't the Hagman, but a being of light that I saw behind my bed where I lay head to sleep. I tried to move my arms, legs, and even tried to scream, but I couldn't. To this day, I don't know what this entity was, and I've been told by one person that it was an angel. However, I don't believe it was, because I don't think that if it was an angel, that I would have been so frightened by it, and was wondering if you might have any insight what it was that night. It's nothing I'd ever heard of before, and I'm curious to know your thoughts. I really don't have many thoughts about that. I really don't know what to say about it. Could be a lot of things, I guess. Could be demonic. I don't know. Next letter. Hey, I haven't emailed in a while, but I keep thinking about a skill I learned years ago that I would like to teach you. Basically, dowsing with metal rods or one rod is very simple. It is so easy to do. I have always joked that I should charge people $100 to teach them with the guarantee of no charge, and to give them $20 for gas money if they fail. If you already know how to do it, I guess you can quit reading now. I really think it would be a good skill to take to the Vortex. I'm listening. If you want to test it, follow these directions. So now I'm going to teach you. The body is full of energy. It's like a gauge in your car, but the little orange needle is missing, so you can't see what the gauge is reading. The metal rod or rods are the needle. Get 2 welding rods or straighten 1 or 2 metal coat hangers. Make a 90-degree bend about 7 inches from the end. The 7-inch portion will be what you hold. Now that you got your antennas, you need to target and be in practice. Pull out your garden hose across a grassy driveway, whatever. Turn the water on and fill the hose. You don't have to keep the water running if you have a closed nozzle on the end. Just need the water in the hose. A powered extension cord will work as well. Hold the rod in one hand or hold a rod in each hand using 2 rods, as shown. The rods should extend out in front of you, with the tips of the rods maybe 2 to 3 inches lower than the rod height in your hand. This keeps the rods pointing forward. Once the rods are stable and pointing forward, begin walking towards the garden hose full of water. Baby steps, smooth movements. As you near the hose, you will begin to feel the rod's tips move closer together. By the time you get to the hose, the rods will likely be crossed so that they are now parallel with the energy source, which is the full hose of water. Once you get the feel of it, you can find the water and power lines coming onto your property, and have Angie lay down on the floor or sit in a chair. As you approach over her with the rods, they will pick up her energy and cross, the same way as they did with the garden hose. I always wondered if this could be done to find avalanche victims. Don't know. The snow water energy might interfere. Once you know how to do this, take your rods to the Vortex. I wonder what you'll find. If I was closer, I would do it for you. Geesh, I think you are a 10-hour drive away, maybe more. Okay, enough for now. I hope you're successful so I don't have to drive 10 hours to prove I'm not crazy. A lot of people who work for utilities know how to do this, mainly the old timers. A retired Seattle PD member. Well, thank you for that. That's interesting. Actually, you always hear that dowsing is used to find wells or a place to build a well. So my question is, how far down in the ground will those dowsing rods find water? Because that's the key, right? What if the water's down 70 feet? Will the dowsing rods stop when you get near that? I don't know. Or will they stop when you're going to go over a sprinkler pipe that's filled with water? I don't know. Probably, based on what this man says. Now, I have heard, and I'm not sure I believe this, it would take a dowsing expert to tell me, that some people have put a map, large map, on the table, and they douse the map to find out where a missing person is located. Now that would be something really special if it would work. The question comes in, who's a real dowsing expert and who isn't? A lot of people that claim an expertise in something, when you get to the bottom line, they really are just guessing. So, those are the letters for today. I don't want... Well, I hope this shows me something, whether this was all worth it and people are watching or whether they aren't. Now, quickly, I could see the number of people who watch the show. Numbers are easy to find. The time you watched is something you get usually after the second or third day of videos up. It's one of the analytics that YouTube will give the person who posted it. So I am interested, and don't feel any pressure at all to watch something you don't want to watch, but it does help me the longer you watch something. If you watch something for 5 minutes and it's an hour long, it doesn't really help me. It does help me if you just keep it on and listen in the background while you're doing your work. 500 plus videos. There's a lot of watch and listen time there if you want to, and I hope you do. In the meantime, do something good for people in your community. We as a people have the ability to help others. Other animals don't. Let's hope that we take our abilities and use them for the good of the world. And in the meantime, you can buy DVDs and Blu Rays to our movies on our website, NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Follow me on Twitter at David Paulides at CanAm Missing. Do not buy my books on Amazon, eBay. You'll pay 3, 4, 5 times as much as they are on our website, nabigfootsearch.com. Paulides out.